A has one task, section B has one, two, three, four tasks. In total, we have five tasks. So, what are the papers all about? So, I'll briefly talk about this for the sake of our candidates who are sitting the exam tomorrow, that is Monday, and going forward. And this also for the sake of teachers of English who may be interested to know what this paper is all about. Um, Paper two, the first task, that is part A, task A1 is about writing a composition. Now, in this case, you're given a line, you're told to begin. The sample that I've seen is about students writing a composition beginning with a certain line. And I'll try to say this very fast. For those who will come across this video before they sit the exam, I'll say this. You must start with that line that is given. And when you begin with that line, there's no harm in putting a full stop and then continuing with the composition. Make sure that the composition aligns with the statement. For example, the example I have is a sample composition. You're supposed to begin. Um, the head teacher stepped forward, looked at us, and smiled. I knew it was going to be an exciting day. So you expect that to be a very interesting essay. And at the end of the day, we should be able to get some background information on how the things went. So number one, I encourage the pupils to be original. Stop repeating stories that you've read before. Number two, um, avoid avoid sexually explicit language like describing kissing, sex words. Avoid those words that mentions reproductive organs. Avoid derogatory language like mother, father. Avoid that. Son of a beetroot. Avoid that. Then stop killing your parents in your compositions to earn what you call sympathy marks. Even if you're an orphan, please avoid sad stories. Don't tell us exactly what you've gone through in life. Instead, give us a realistic story about you maybe leaving home to go to the countryside or going to Mombasa for the first time. Those are ordinary, everyday questions. Talk about describe a normal situation. Avoid stories on weddings because weddings are too exciting, you know. And being exciting is that there's no conflict, there's no challenge. So, such interesting stories will not give you marks because there's nothing, you don't experience any challenge. The other thing is avoid narrative like stories, like for example, once upon a time. Avoid animal stories. Avoid fantasy stories, make believe, which are not realistic. Then stop writing a story, then at the end of the day you tell the teacher that I heard my mother's voice, then I realized it was a dream. That is the best way to kill a story. If you are to get 20 out of 20 marks, that reduces to only 10. It's the worst way to let me say, just say the worst way to finish a story. Then avoid heavy words, vocabulary, unless you know the meaning. Yeah, just be simple and to the point, okay? Then avoid cliches. No primary schools, let me not describe that because some schools, primary schools or junior secondary, probably that is encouraged. Task two, oral literature. Now, oral literature, I realize that some of the questions are asked, and these questions are something about features of style, how to make a story interesting, character traits, moral lesson. So let me just summarize this. For narratives, we have common features of styles like the opening formula, once upon a time, one day. You can easily identify that. Once upon a time, one day could also be an example of timelessness. And then the importance of opening formula, brings the audience from the world of reality to the world of fantasy. Identifies the narrator. Okay, indicates, lets the audience know that it's time for another a story. Closing formula again does the opposite. It takes the audience from the world of reality to the from the world of fantasy back to the world of reality. Identifies the or signals that the story is coming to an end. Other features of style that students need to take note of: moral lesson, which has to be positively stated. Moral lesson has to be positive. Others are maybe direct address. In the story, someone appears to be talking to another. You went, you did this, I urge you. You're talking to someone. That's direct address. We have local language or vernacular. Yeah, you should be able to identify that. If we have direct translation, like put the phone on fire instead of charge the phone, should be able to identify that. Other styles could be irony, metaphor, similes. We have personification. Okay, we have. You remember these stories happened long time ago, so they are not modern. So I also expect other specific styles. I've talked about metaphors, similes. We have irony, a fantasy, which means the same as exaggeration, the same as a hyperbole. etc. Let me talk about character traits. For example, if a character is greedy, you should be able to identify a case whereby, or an instance that proves that this character is actually greedy, maybe eating more than they are entitled to, or eating to an extent that others miss. Talk about a character being corrupt. It's a character who actually takes bribes. One who is not corrupt, we say is incorruptible. So we have quite a number of other traits which we have to easily identify. Inquisitive, asking so many questions. etc. Then you may be asked about how to make a story interesting. You can make a story interesting by using facial expressions, body language, like facial expressions, body movement, facial expressions, grinning, smiling, yeah, eye contact, yeah. You can also involve the audience in the storytelling, involve them in the song, amongst others. In fact, in storytelling, one of the features is songs. So allow me move on. You may be asked to identify the genre, the type of story. It could be a dilemma narrative, it could be a trickster narrative, it could be an ethological narrative, it could be a monster or giant narrative. It could be a myth, it could be a metaphor, not myth, sorry, it could be a myth, it could be a legend. Okay, ethological is about a story that explains them why things are the way they are. For example, why the zebra is striped. Task 3, which is under under section B. It's about poetry. And I want to say this. Teachers who prepared their pupils well need not worry. Poetry is simple. Poetry is just like a song. So a good pupil will read through the poem. Okay? Just read through once. Once you've done so, you should be able to identify the number of lines. Just one, two, three lines. You should be able to identify how many stanzas the poem has. Uh-huh. Also, there's something to do with sound patterns. You should be able to identify, for example, rhyming words at the end of lines that end in the same sound. Okay, like pain, eh, stain. Okay, rough, graph. They end in the same sound. Okay. Then we also have a rhyme scheme. I'm not sure whether onomatopoeia, idiophones, uh, alliteration, assonance, consonants are also tested under this particular section. Um, Moving on, under poetry, you might also be asked for the meaning of certain phrases used in the poem. Okay, this should just be easy. For those who've been reading again, it becomes very easy. Task 4 is about a play. I guess grade 9 have two set books. One is a play, the other one is a novel. This novel is called a novella. Next time I'll be talking about the difference between a novel and a novella. For the sake of this exam, allow me to talk about the play. The play, we just have some characters. There is a conflict, and I've not read the play that is being done by the Kidsea pupils or grade 9. Remember, this exam that takes them uh, to senior secondary come 2026. So I realized that you are asked, for example, where do the events in the play take place? That means you should have read the play, you should have understood that. The information will not be available in the paper. It's you to actually know multiple choices, right? Then issues raised in the play. These are the themes. Is the play talking about corruption? Is it about religion? Is it about education? Is it about death? Is it about conflict? Which conflict? Is it about traditions? Which traditions? Is it about technology? Which technology? You can identify certain phrases, words, or probably what some people say. So you given this part of the play, it's you to read through and identify all this. Then describing characters. You could say a character, for example, is impatient from the way they speak. A character could be Hardworking based on what they do or what we are told they do or what they say. Remember, you can describe a character from what they say, what others say about them, or how they do what they do. Okay, if they sleep too much, then they are lazy. If they eat too much, they are greedy. What have you? Or gluttonous. In that case, that is a noun. Yeah, giving illustrations. Don't, for example, there's corruption. So, can you illustrate? Can you identify a line, or can you explain what proves that there's corruption in that case? Yeah, so that is about the play. Very simple, straightforward questions. So, boys and girls who love reading will have it easy here. Um, Task 5, novella. That is the novel. Now, teachers who prepared their pupils well for the novel will have it easy because the pupils only need to remember what happened in the play in the novel. For example, a student is asked about the setting. Setting is about time and place. Does the story take place in Nairobi, Kisumu, South Africa, America? Does it happen during the day or during the night? Give the timelines. Does the story happen over Christmas, over the weekend, over Easter, etc., or during the colonial period, or during the pre-colonial period, or during the post-colonial period? Characterization, I've already mentioned this. Tell us about the characters, what they do, how they do it, and what others say about them. Hardworking, impatient, corrupt, lazy, religious, etc. Then we have talk about other characters in the story. For example, you should be able, as a student by now, we may have few cases whereby some people cannot remember who is involved in the play, but a student or a pupil who was prepared very well should remember all the characters in the play. Normally, I've seen the plays; they're not that big, so I don't expect a student to have it rough. Being small minds, young minds, they should not have any problem with memory. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, there's something about style, language used. Questions like what is the use of dialogue in the story? Maybe if there's a song, what is the use of the song? Questions like what is the use of repetition? For example, when you say that the lizard walked and walked until it got to town, the essence of repeating the word walked and walked, it brings out the fact that the lizard must have one gotten tired. Number two, it is also possible that the lizard um, probably it was a very long distance. Okay, yeah. So that brings us to the end of that discussion on paper 2 English, paper 2 KJSEA, KJSEA, Kenya Junior Secondary Examination Assessment. And I wish to remind teachers, no panic modes. Do not predict questions that don't come. Don't even predict. Actually, there's no award for predicting exams, but just prepare the pupils. By now, they should be ready for the exam, and don't even be tempted to help them cheat and or get answers answers correct when they don't deserve. Okay, let them just get what they deserve, and they'll respect you for life. My teachers who prepared me in primary school, I've met some of them. I respect them because they prepared me well. They never showed me or taught me dishonest means to get things done, because when they get to high school, things are likely to change. We have cases of a student who got an A in primary school, but now in high school they can barely communicate. So we are left wondering exactly what went wrong. Wishing KJSEA or grade 9 pupils all the best in the coming exam, and we hope for the best. Prepare them well. I know they've been prepared well. Parents, don't panic. Let the kids do their thing, okay? And we wish them all the best. They will succeed. Meanwhile, follow me on YouTube, Mwalimu Arabu Adede, and let's learn English together. My wish is to see everyone communicate in English effortlessly, seamlessly, and we go forward together. All the best in the exams starting tomorrow.